specific preparation for face-to-face learning is quite different to something that is non-face-to-face. So we're going to have a look now at the different areas that we can learn and how we can learn for them. In a face-to-face learning situation, it astounds me when students don't ask me the right question, and that is, who is going to set my exam? Most university examinations are set by a person or one of the people who teaches the subject. So if you know who's teaching you the subject and who's setting the exam, you can get a feel for the way they talk and the way they interact with you. And a person who trains you wants you to pass the exam and will give hints and tips and even direct instructions during the classes. We had a situation just recently. My daughter trains medical students, at fourth-year medical students, with one of her friends, who is also a qualified doctor. These two girls are very, very good at training. But they've got a class at the moment that really does not seem to get it. Now, there's not many people in a class, so when their students come into the class, these two girls have been giving hints and tips on how to answer the questions. The only problem is the students aren't listening. They're too busy trying to read their books and do the work that they should have done. As a result, in the last exam, only 2 people passed. Those 2 people were the ones that listened to the lecturer. In any kind of course, you need to listen to the lecturer. But the truth is that quite often you get tired. Lecturers can be very monotonous. And often you don't understand the material, so then your mind just goes off and walks somewhere else. If that's the case, you need to find a way of focusing your attention. So for instance, for myself, I did a lot of my courses, which were online. I did them while I was doing the ironing. Now, ironing is not very glamorous. It keeps your body occupied and you can't fall asleep. And since I was studying quite late at night, I needed that. I've also done things where I've sat there and done crocheting. Again, it keeps the hands busy, stops me falling asleep, but my mind is free to concentrate on the lecturer, even though he may be as boring as they come. You should be clear about the skills and outcomes that will be tested, because this subject matter is what you should be able to answer. So you need to make sure that you've got your curriculum, and you need to make sure that you know what the outcomes are. If you don't have a curriculum, at least have the outcomes. Most large courses and institutions will set the exams before the course even begins. And quite often, you'll get not just the course that you're writing, but if there was a course before you, if it's a modular course that runs every 6 months, the exam will be set very similar for both of those courses. So if you can get the module before you, if you are writing in a modular course, you quite often will find that you get some very helpful tips and hints from that exam. If the exam is going to be the same, they won't allow you to have a past exam paper. But if the exam is going to be similar, sometimes they will allow this. Often we find in a learning situation which is face-to-face, the examiner is the same person who trains the course. And if that's the case, pay special attention to whatever they say. Also, don't make an enemy of them. It's not a bright idea. One of the things that most lecturers universally hate is when you have a student that flirts or disrupts the class. And this is not the way to perform if you're going to go and get an exam through that person, because they're going to be a little bit biased. I have had students in classes where I've actually said to them, I don't know why you're in this class. You don't obviously want to learn. You just want to disrupt the class. You want to try and show that the lecturer, whether it was myself or somebody else, doesn't know their subject. And unfortunately, you're going to fail. And the reason you're going to fail is because you don't actually know enough to know that you don't know enough. So therefore, I suggest you leave the class. And these people get quite upset. But the bottom line is that somebody who keeps doing that in a class not only is a disruption for the lecturer, but also for the other classmates. If you do that in your class, you can expect bias in your exams. But fortunately, moderation should be applied to most exams, especially if there's a close pass or fail. In reality, the 25% that we want to have moderated doesn't normally happen. But at least you do know that if it's a close pass or a close fail, they will definitely moderate the course. They will also moderate any papers that have a fail that is very low. We want to make sure that you actually did know how to write your name. A little hint. If it's new in the course, it is guaranteed to be in the exam. So then listen very, very carefully. So let's sum up. Face-to-face learning means you can communicate not only with the lecturer, but also with fellow students, and this can aid understanding with your work and with the outcomes of the course. Exam hints and tips should be written down, but don't concentrate solely on these. I had an exam where the lecturer enjoyed sending us on a wild goose chase, and her exam had none of the tips she had given us. So find out from previous students if they've had that lecturer. Sometimes it's good to get to know your lecturer.